You're terrified of embarrassment, and it's stealing your ability to have fun. Like most perfectionists, you think this is just who I am, but the thief is internalized negative experiences. There are two simple practices I use as a recovering perfectionist that will dissolve your anxiety and unlock carefree joy, even in this chaotic world. Okay. This week's video is set to the backdrop of my latest ventures and finding fun and enjoyment out of life again. If you'd like to know more about that journey and even join me on the journey, find the video about that in the cards or in the comments below. The first practice that has helped me go into recovery from being a perfectionist is to let go of expectations. This, to me, is the foundation of healing. I tell the kids that I work with all the time to let go of their expectations, especially of other people's behavior, and they'll have more peace in their lives. When I started following my own advice, I found that principle to be true. That if I stopped trying to control things that I cannot control, then I have more peace. So to let go of your expectations, one thing that I also find helpful is to avoid rigid planning, because sometimes still, even in my mind, things have to go exactly as I planned it, or it's going to be a problem for me emotionally. But if I can just have a loose plan and something changes or deviates, it's not a big deal. The second practice that has helped me in my journey to become less of a perfectionist is to embrace unintended outcomes. It promotes flexibility and creativity. At a time, one of my friends told me, "Destiny, you're so inflexible," and she meant that I was inflexible with her as well. Everything was so rigid. And that goes back to my first point of not putting expectations on people. And embracing an unintended outcome also helps you grow and learn. Because if nothing unexpected ever comes our way, how do we expect to adapt to our environments and keep growing and thriving despite whatever comes? These two practices are all well and good, but for me to understand why it matters, I have to get to the root of something. And I've found that the roots of my perfectionism are usually somewhere wrapped up in not wanting to be embarrassed, not wanting to look bad, or not wanting to be perceived as incompetent. Did those sound familiar to you? To find your roots, I invite you to go on a little journey with me. Close your eyes. Put your feet flat on the floor. And take 3 big, deep breaths. ask yourself, what is the root of my embarrassment? What is contributing to my critical attitude and all or nothing mindset? Where did that all begin? Close your eyes. Think of the first time you've ever felt embarrassed, or maybe not the first time, maybe the most important time, the most critical time that you felt embarrassed or shamed, and you thought to yourself, I don't want to feel this ever again. What does it feel like? What does it smell like? Can you hear the sounds? Were you younger? Were you older? Open your eyes. You have that experience in mind. Keep that experience. Hold tight. In doing this activity for myself, I found that one of the roots of my avoidance or fear of embarrassment or shame came when I was about 16. I had driven separately to church from my parents one day because, I was 16. I just got my license, feeling myself a little bit. And I pulled into the church parking lot, and some of my friends, probably about 4 of them, all came to my car window. And so I rolled down the window. This is all before I parked. And one of them said something slick, but we were just playing around. And so I faked driving away. So I was like, oh, I don't have to listen to this. And so I just drove away from the group. And my parents weren't that far behind me. So they saw what happened. All they saw was me moderately speeding away from a group of people. And when we got out of the car, I got a talking to. I was scolded in front of my peers. And the way that it was done was embarrassing. And I thought to myself, I don't want to feel this way again. I felt incompetent, and I did feel shame because I was feeling guilt because I could have injured one of my friends and I wasn't thinking. And I thought to myself, I don't want to be caught lacking again. So that is a root of my fear of embarrassment, or me not wanting to do anything wrong, because I don't want to be publicly shamed or publicly embarrassed or publicly disciplined again. And I also don't want to put people in danger. The inspiration for this video actually came from a similar situation, in that it involved a parent and a child. This week, I went to Disney, my husband and I, with some of our friends and their child. Now, when it got to dinner time, she did not want to eat her macaroni and cheese at all. She wasn't having it, and she was putting her foot down. She wasn't being loud or anything. She was just a little whiny about the situation. And her father was trying to convince her to eat it, or to at least try it. She didn't even want to try it. And she was just digging her heels in. So one thing that struck me is that he said, let's go have this conversation in private, away from everyone. And that really struck me, because it's not often that adults take their disciplining or their talking to of their children into a private place. And then I thought about it. Why is that? Why do we think that kids don't deserve the dignity and the respect to not be disciplined and embarrassed in public? When it comes to hard conversations with kids, it seems like as a society, we just have them anywhere, out in the open for anyone to hear. And if we put that in perspective, in the context of, say, we're at work and we do something that's not savory, and our boss decides to publicly discipline or shame us, how does that make us feel? So it's the same when it comes to kids, even more so, because we're adults and should be able to deal with our emotions, even embarrassment and shame. But children are still learning. If we as adults don't want to be talked to or have a come to Jesus in front of people, why would a kid? When we do these things with a child, like embarrass them publicly or shame them publicly, that can create mistrust between us and the child, between the adult and the child. Because why would they want to share their emotions or how they feel with us if they just think that we're going to embarrass them about it or shame them about it, especially if we don't like that they're having the emotion, or if them having the emotion doesn't align with what we think the situation warrants. Which, another note in this section about parents and other people in authority, what causes shame and embarrassment to one person is different than what causes shame and embarrassment for the other person. It's all subjective. So the next time you have to have a hard conversation with a child because they've done something that's not savory, when considering the method in which you address their behavior, ask yourself, would I want this done to me? That is the root of my fear of embarrassment, and part of what has fueled the perfectionism that was such a huge part of my life for so long. What's yours? As a bonus tip, Another thing that has helped me be in recovery as a perfectionist is to know and recognize that people are going to say what they're going to say regardless of what I do. I could do something perfect. I could not make any mistakes in a task that I do, and someone is still going to have something negative to say. And that all goes back to the first 2 points of letting go of expectations and embracing the unexpected, because we can't control what other people do, and we can't control how they perceive a situation or what we do. So we have to let go of our expectation that they are going to respond positively to us, especially if we do something perfectly. If this video has helped you in any way, comment below. I'ma let go. Thank you for watching this far. I'll catch y'all in 2 weeks.